Plastic can be a dirty word. It's used in everything. About 100 billion of single-use plastics gets discarded every year, and it causes almost $140 billion in total environmental damages. Here are the reasons why we need plastic. It's used in a lot of cars, and it prolongs the shelf life of food, a key element in feeding our ever-growing planet. The industry employs a lot of people, more than 1.5 million people in Europe alone, with an even bigger multiplier effect on GDP. Enter Morgan Stanley. The big bank wants to help change the industry. The company has committed to reducing 50 million metric tons of plastic from the environment by 2030, and a large part of that will be advising its clients that lie all throughout the value chain, from chemical plants to users to waste management. For example, the bank helped PepsiCo issue its first ever green bond, $1 billion to help the company pursue its sustainability agenda. And it distributed a $10 million so-called blue bond, which focuses on waste in the ocean for the World Bank. Morgan Stanley is also trying to expand its offerings to retail and institutional clients who want exposure to the new economy of plastic. The numbers are small but growing. Is it a movement or a revolution?
Alix caught up with Audrey Choi, Morgan Stanley Chief Sustainability Officer, and asked about one of the firm's commitments to the change in the plastic industry.
Across our client base, we are actually working with that whole value chain across the plastics economy. And so if we're going to change anything, we really need to be working with the large chemical companies, large consumer companies, large engineering companies, as well as states and municipalities who are dealing with waste management and recycling, as well as individuals. We were able to work with Pepsi to help them structure their inaugural billion-dollar green bonds, with a large portion of those proceeds going to helping them reduce the virgin plastic in their beverage chain.
Well, what was demand for that bond like?
That demand for that bond was very robust. In fact, we saw actually it was significantly oversubscribed, and in fact, there was more interest in that bond than a similar price bond that people could have gotten for sort of same credit rating, same paper. We launched some new low-dollar minimum portfolios, again focused on ocean health and plastic waste reduction. And in just a few months, we've seen really robust demand from individual investors. We just surpassed the 100 million mark. And these are investors, these are not massive investors. These are individuals with maybe $10,000 saying, I'm going to proactively choose not to put this into the market in general, but to select this portfolio that is really focusing on plastic waste reduction.
What are other types of financial instruments that have sort of cropped up?
Yes, so there's blue bonds focused really on ocean health. I think we've also seen bonds like NL, which has issued a bond where it's really focusing its bond on general sustainability goals of the entire enterprise. And so what we're seeing is this real alignment where I do think that we're at at a particularly important moment in the market now, where we're seeing the convergence of individual investors and institutional investors saying they want to align their investments with things like sustainability, climate change, plastic waste reduction, as well as companies seeing and investors seeing that those actually can really align with returns. Often with reduced risk, often with the ability to have different opportunities.
What other opportunities is there for Morgan Stanley in this business?
In the case of the Pepsi bond, for example, we were the sole green structurer for that. Really, we're delighted to be able to work with them and think about how could their efforts on plastic waste reduction really be a key part of the bond that we could help make sure that our investors understood and could align with. But then I think there's also, great work to be done with, with municipalities as they think about financing for new waste treatment plants. And obviously work with investors, both institutional and individual, as to how can they make choices that align with that.
Where do you think you're going to see the biggest growth within this?
I think we will see a big growth in underwriters, in corporates, especially who have sort of a public-facing brand.
It's still really small, right? So when does it get up to competition level in the corporate bond market or real investor interest? when did we get to that point?
Well, look, I think if you look at, the development that the green bond market has had just in the past few years, right? 2012 it was about $1 billion bond was issued. That was the biggest thing it had ever seen, and now we're looking at more than $200 billion. So again, compared to the bond market as a whole, you're right, it's still small, but that growth rate is quite fast.